Aggressive and ill-tempered, Mánagarm are a frequent sight for arcanists seeking to deepen their insight. A quadruped species resembling some manner of two-headed canid, the family consists of 4 variants corresponding to the 4 physical afflatuses, with each having developed differently in accordance with their environment. In terms of combat prowess, Mánagarm boasts respectable parameters across the offensive and defensive spectrum, though the exact capabilities will vary between species. Besides the obvious use of their teeth and claws, Mánagarm are also known to utilize breath and roar-based attacks, which may carry a host of auxiliary effects depending on the critter's alignment. Mineral-aligned Mánagarm have a fairly standard build and appearance for the species, save for the rock-like deposits coating their limbs, which they are able to use to process food. Sources state that these protrusions are attached to their limbs rather than grown, implying that these are not a trait endemic to the species and instead a consequence of residing primarily in mineral-aligned environments. As would be expected of such a feature, this species exhibits notably better defensive performance than their brethren. More cautious than the other variations of Mánagarm, they have a tendency to curl into a defensive stance when threatened, covering their vulnerable sections with heavily fortified limbs. Average in strength and encumbered by stone, it is unlikely that mineral-aligned Mánagarm confront their quarry directly. Indeed, if mineral-aligned environments are more likely to produce heavily defense-oriented specimens, then any sort of frontal confrontation is likely to be futile and an unnecessary metabolic expenditure. Rather, like some colubrids, they may opt to surprise and grievously wound their prey, utilizing venom or inflicting severe lacerations before allowing it to escape. They then wait for it to succumb and retrieve their prize at their leisure. Alternatively, should the critter be fortunate enough to stun the prey before it can flee, it may find an easy meal without the need to expend any additional resources or effort. Star-aligned Mánagarm sport a glittering pelt and brilliant, shining eyes. Their undercoat has developed a shimmering blue coloration and is littered with an array of various star-like objects which are noted to ring when they run. Though they possess some recuperative ability should healing become necessary over the course of a scuffle, this species is ill-suited for protracted encounters. They sport observably lackluster endurance as their ferocity appears to wane the longer the hunt progresses. They are likely pursuit predators and, much like a cheetah, opt to rapidly exhaust their metabolic resources, allowing for explosive bursts of energy. They rely on a particularly devastating engagement in the hopes of overwhelming their prey before it can retaliate. In addition to potentially crippling it in one blow, this also serves to disorient, making it easier for the critter to land strikes at critical junctions to which they take full advantage. They are adept at exploiting their target's weaknesses, landing debilitating strikes should the prey let its guard down. Due to their average physical strength and poor endurance, it is likely that their prey of choice are smaller creatures, or creatures that lack the adequate fortification and speed to either weather or escape their assault. Plant-aligned Mánagarm are layered in various mosses and vegetation, with branches protruding from the growth. Though their capabilities on an individual basis appear relatively unimpressive at first glance, being physically weaker than any of their counterparts, their unique relationship with their vegetative tenants serves to greatly bolster their defenses in certain scenarios. The dense covering of foliage provides additional protection to the critter, while it, in turn, provides mobility and, presumably, protection from grazing beasts. This species is likely to function primarily as an ambush predator. The growth of new foliage upon their pelt is likely quite slow, meaning any damage incurred will remain until the plant life recovers. Additionally, this would also mean that their efficacy is greatest when their pelt is intact and before the growths have been damaged or cut away, at which point their general efficiency drastically declines. As a result, an ambush strategy is ideal, as it invites the least risk of damage or retaliation, and, while the additional bulk of their coat may prove unwieldy in direct conflicts, it does provide excellent camouflage in the plant-aligned environments in which they reside. Though the relationship between plant and animal is largely symbiotic in nature, it should be noted that the accumulation of plant growth does seem to cause some level of discomfort in the critter, as they are often observed to scratch vigorously. Beast-aligned Mánagarm are characterized by the overgrowth of their spinal column, causing the bone to protrude from the skin. In addition, they sport a collection of several additional misshapen eyes which adorn their lateral sections. Particularly ferocious, their sheer prowess eclipses that of their kin, eschewing any manner of finesse or technique in favor of raw physicality. Though this family of critters are hunters by nature, beast-aligned Mánagarm excel in this regard. Much like mundane wolves, it can be speculated that this species is a persistence hunter, wounding its prey and allowing it to flee while they stalk it for hours or even days on end. They boast significant recuperative ability, though, unlike their star-aligned cousins, this healing is done gradually as opposed to an immediate bolus of vitality. This would aid in longer pursuits, with their fervor only increasing as the hunt progresses, and their attacks gaining ferocity as their target's vitality wanes. This method of hunting could imply that their prey of choice is perhaps larger or more agile than themselves, making the preferred option a protracted chase, allowing their quarry to weaken over time instead of a direct fight. It is unknown why such ill-suited prey would be their choice of meal. Perhaps the prevalence of predator species is greater in beast-aligned environments, meaning typical choices for food are highly contested or absent entirely. This could potentially force the Mánagarm to resort to larger, less conventional options, eating what they can and caching the remains for a later date. Additionally, the overgrowth of the spinal structures would serve to support the idea that beast-aligned environments are rife with larger and more aggressive creatures. Apex predators typically do not sport armor or spikes. These are most often reserved for prey species, as their frequent predation provides the necessary pressures to steer their development in such a direction. The presence of such defense mechanisms in beast-aligned Mánagarm may have been an evolutionary response to no longer being the top of the food chain. Historically, Garm was some form of canid in Norse mythology, either a hound or a wolf, though his mentions in historical texts are generally sparse. Typically associated with Hel and the forces of chaos, he was said to be a beast shackled by the gates of the underworld who would break free from his bindings during Ragnarok and battle with Tyr, the god of war and justice. He was said to be the exemplar or apex among canines. The specifics of what sort of animal Garm was is unclear. In some texts he is referenced as freki, wolf, while in others he is referenced as hundur, dog. It is due to this ambiguity that some have proposed that Garmr is actually synonymous with another, more well-known mythical canine, Fenrir. Fenrir was a wolf sired by the trickster god Loki. Fearing his great strength and the evil he would wreak, the gods bound him to a stone where he was fated to remain until the end of days, but not before he was able to bite off Tyr's hand. He was foretold to break from his bonds and kill Odin during Ragnarok. The similarities in their imprisonment, their role in the end times, and their antagonistic relationships with Tyr have led some to speculate that Garmr and Fenrir are actually one and the same. Mánagarm's two heads may potentially allude to this idea. Alternatively, it may also be invoking yet another mythological dog, Urthrus, who was the two-headed brother of Cerberus of Greek myth. There is a relative dearth of critter detail in Reverse 1999. Most of their information is constrained to small descriptions and, in some cases, passing mentions in stories and traces. That said, we are given enough clues to make some rudimentary conclusions. The Mánagarm family has been fortunately placed in that while they are based in historical mythology, they share enough traits with extant species to speculate some specifics of their habits and their ecology. Though it can be said that the design elements such as a mossy hide or a protruding spine were included solely for the aesthetic or for the thematic, such elements do have parallels in the natural world, which does allow us some insight into their potential utility. And while not all of the critters in the game have such firm roots in reality, there are a fair number that do, and I eventually do plan on reviewing all of them. Depending on their details, some may delve deeper into speculation of their probable niche in a biome, while others will focus more heavily in their historical or their mythological basis. But for now, these are the details that I have been able to speculate based on Mánagarm's design and descriptions, and if you've stuck around for the video, thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.